It recently just came out that MTN Ghana was going to increase prices of their mobile data on Monday by 15%. And everyone's mind is blown. Because at the end of the day, right, mobile data, if you think about it, that's the lifeblood. Data is the lifeblood, it's the juice, it's the sauce, it's the, if you're in Ghana and you eat fufu, it's the light soup to the digital economy and entrepreneurship. At the Palava, what we really want to focus on is on making tech accessible to people. You can't have tech in Ghana without talking about data costs. The key question that is on a lot of people's minds right now, outside of, the insults that are going to be thrown objectively once you feel the burn, how expensive exactly is data in Ghana? Comparing Ghana to other countries, how does Ghana stack up? Now, I didn't do this research because at the end of the day, it's kind of long, but it's valuable stuff. Luckily for us, there's already firms and data research arms that have done this. So according to Statista, as you can see, it's Statista, it's like statistics, but with an S, so it's cooler sounding. And I hope my editor, John Andrew, can plug this right here. They basically compared the cost of 1 gigabyte of data across so many different countries. And it actually turns out that cost of data in Ghana is actually not that expensive.
Hold up, wait a minute.
So to kind of break this down, you have to put things into context. So you have Ghana. The cost of 1 gigabyte of data in Ghana. And again, everything is valued in US dollar because at the end of the day, a lot of commerce and trade and everything really is valued in US dollars. Cost of 1 gigabyte of data in Ghana is 0.66 cents per 1 gigabyte. Let's compare Togo. The cost of 1 gigabyte of data in Togo is 12.94. The cost of 1 gigabyte of data in Sao Tome and Principe is $29.94. At the end of the day, it actually turns out that Ghana's cost of data is actually relatively cheap when you compare it to many parts of sub-Saharan Africa. Like if you look at this graph, you can see that Ghana ain't doing too bad. It's still pretty decent comparatively. But at the moment, the city isn't doing too well right now. Once you have a fuller picture, you start to see the nuance. But at the end of the day, we are consumers, and our pockets, and especially in the current economy that we are in, pockets are going to hurt. So it makes me angry and it makes you angry because at the end of the day, we are consumers. So once we have the cost just kind of going up by 15%, we lose our minds, and it's completely valid. Even at the 0.66 cents per 1 gigabyte, why exactly is that still quote unquote expensive to us as Ghanaians? Like, why does it cost even that much? Because even in the graph you saw that there were some countries that had it cheaper. The question is actually answered by one word: content. So in one of these previous interviews, the CEO of MTN Ghana, Salom Adedavo, actually came up and said one of the reasons why data is so costly is because a majority of the content that's streamed within Ghana is actually foreign content. And what I mean by content, that's your data, your apps, the services you use, the Netflix you're watching, the online pirated football matches that you're watching, all of that. Not that we pirates, like we don't do that.
Why you always lying?
That's data being streamed from foreign sources. And at the end of the day, because it's foreign and it's brought into the country, what ends up happening is that data actually goes through these undersea cables. And going through these cables actually incur a pretty big cost. The logic kind of breaks down like this. If the content is in Ghana, and again, I'm kind of simplifying here, but I wanted to kind of share the what's that word? Overarching. My editor said it, but I cut it out, so it seems like I came up with it. But sort of the overarching principle that I'm trying to share with you is that if the content isn't located in Ghana, it means that it has to be fetched from a foreign location, which basically brings in means it has more cost. Saloma Dedevo, the MTN Ghana CEO, kind of said this: we need more content in Ghana. There needs to be more apps, more services, more content that's produced within the confines here, so that when you're fetching that information is coming from here. And as a result of it not having to travel as far, the cost incurred for bringing it to your screens is actually lower. So it actually sparks a pretty interesting idea where it's like, again, I might be overly simplifying here, so let me know. Again, it's the palaver, we're learning together. So just drop it down in the comments. Let me know your comments and we can have that conversation. But at the end of the day, it basically gives startups an opportunity to produce localized content that's fetched here. And as a result, more startups producing more content would actually lead to lower data costs. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't live in Fantasyland. I'm not saying that this is a reality. What I am saying is this might be an opportunity. I think it's really interesting. MTN actually tried to do something very similar to this, where they basically created a suite of tools. And again, trust me, this isn't sponsored by MTN. I'm not an MTN stan or anything along those lines. And MTN actually realized this problem so much so that they actually created a platform called Genosis.io. Now, why they chose the name Genosis, I don't know. You have to ask them. They actually tried to solve that problem because they realized that there needed to be more local content made, because having more local content would mean there'd be lower data costs because the data wouldn't have to travel as far. So to kind of show you how much content is such an issue, let's actually go back to COVID. So during the really deep part of the pandemic, COVID-19, there were so many protests, so many calls, basically asking one of these mobile network operators, hey, reduce your prices. Let people access data because we're moving to a more remote world. And as a result of being in that remote world, we're going to need access to data. Now, you would expect MTN, Vodafone, the big MNOs of the world, you'd expect them to say, of course, we're all struggling. Let's do it. Guess what they said? Hell no! But get this, it wasn't because they were wicked or they just liked money. There was actually a very simple reason. And we're gonna break it down for you. So it turns out when you reduce the prices of data, that's gonna boost demand. People are gonna go buy up data, and as a result, they're going to consume more content. And as a result, you also have to understand that the capacity, for the most part, is pretty fixed. It's not like MTN can blink and open their eyes and all of a sudden they have more undersea cables that they've laid within a few hours, right? That takes time, money. And that's the same for Vodafone, MTN, all of these mobile network operators. So what ends up happening is, let's say you're at home and let's say you're on Zoom University if you're a college student. You're on your lectures. You know that data has become cheaper. But as a result, more people are connecting. And that chokes up the bandwidth. All of a sudden, the capacity isn't enough. And your internet starts to slow. Gets so slow to the point where you start buffering. Like you just start buffering. And as a result, you can't even do anything. The capacity just wasn't there. And that reducing prices, spiking demand, would actually be more negative for everybody as a whole than keeping prices consistent and trying to kind of balance that demand and supply. This has an impact on the startup ecosystem. Now, if there's an increase in prices, as a consumer, we'll definitely feel that hurt, which means that we're going to consume, for the most part, less content from now on, which means that a lot of these different startups are going to feel that burn because a lot of more people aren't going to be willing to spend as much data on their services as they would have been in the past. And again, the current economic climate that we're in kind of compounds. Things get tougher. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video, shed some context. Again, if you have any comments, if you have any more nuanced thoughts, please drop them in the comments below. We're always learning here at the Palava. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you gained something from this video. My name is Adom, aka Mr. Palava.